Hello, friends. Welcome to Friends and Code Spaces. Do you get that reference? Friends and Code Spaces. Could we do a little at the start of this? I don't have a theme song yet. I kind of ask every guest to just give me a little. Which one of you has a better country accent?
I mean, are you going to claim it?
I am from North Carolina.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful. Can I just get just one bar?
I got friends in code spaces.
Whoa, and a voice. Look at that. Well, that makes sense.
He is in voice AI.
That makes sense. He's in voice AI. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. So welcome to the show. You have no idea what we're doing here, and I really appreciate that you both came and agreed to come and do this with us and have some fun.
Definitely wouldn't have if you'd said I had to sing.
Excellent. So this show is about people that we meet in real life that are doing awesome things, and we want to bring them onto the show and let everybody hear, because not everybody gets to be in real life with both of you. And it is a wonderful experience every time that we get to be together. So I am here with Quinn and Nina.
I'm Nina Kuruvilla, co-founder of Daily.
Thank you.
I'm Kwindla, Hultman, Kramer. Almost everybody calls me Quinn.
Quinn. Awesome.
He has a difficult first name.
He does. He does. And I didn't know your last names, which is really nice. It's on my screen, actually, right now. I could have looked at my screen, but I didn't.
We're on a first name basis.
Yeah, we are. We're there. We're there. And we do a lot of stuff together. And because you are so good at doing community stuff, I love the community that you are constantly building. I love the way that you are sharing your knowledge. And I really appreciate that. And I would love to learn more about that as we go through things today, and more about what you're building, because you are building some of the coolest tech that is out there and you are making it accessible. And I really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. We're going to start with our first game. Our first game is called Context Window. So LLMs only know about some things. And it turns out if I asked Llama 3.2 about you, I said, hey, Llama 3.2, I am doing an interview with Kwindla, Hultman, Kramer, there's the full name, and Nina Kuruvilla. Well, I did that. And they are the co-founders of Daily.co. What do you know about them? And more importantly, you are a self-aware AI, and I want you to ask them questions that would help you be a better AI. So I just want to say that you are our first guests that were in the window. It knew about you a little bit. Didn't know everything that you were doing, but it knew about you. So
we're old.
You've been around. It knew about Daily too. It did. I think a cloud communications company that offers virtual meeting and customer experience solutions. Maybe a little bit dated on what the story of Daily is, which we're going to get into. Because I went forward and I gave it some more. It's interested. It's definitely interested in how you overcome early challenges, which is fascinating. Emerging trends and predictions. And then I gave it a little additional context, right? So I talked about your leaders in the AI voice space. I really think anytime there's something that's voice, it's like, well, I'm just going to, what does Quinn think about that? What has Nina shared lately about that? The open source voice framework that you are pushing right now is so cool. You're enabling people. So I wanted to know about that. And you throw hackathons and you inspire people with demos. So like, I really, really enjoy that about you. And I said, hey, AI, what would you, based on this information, what's going to help you know more about them? And so there were some categories. And if I could get you to look at those categories, and you get to choose. This is the choose your own adventure part of this game. Underneath each one of these, there is a question that AI generated. So AI generated the topics and about how it can be a better AI. So the questions might be a little bit strange. So do you see anything there that jumps out that you want to see?
Well, first, which Llama 3.2 is this? Because you got to meet the LLMs where they are.
Exactly. So we're at 11B.
Okay.
We're at 11B
perfect.
on this one.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nina?
Let's roll the dice. Pick one.
So can we read which ones? Just let's read out what's there, because we have some listeners at home. Yeah.
Right. So it's what we have presented before us. For chosen question, categories are AI voice space, co-founding challenges, always a key topic in San Francisco
sure.
and many places. Human skills, such as creative problem solving.
Which are the AI interested in.
Innovation approach. Origins of Daily.co. The PipeCat voice framework. And last category, the role of AI and machine learning in their products.
Your self-absorbed question on the part of the LLM.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Where are we going to go? What's door number one? What are we choosing?
Yeah, I mean, should we start with AI voice space, or is that going too deep too soon? Where should we start? Or origins of Daily?
We talk about a little bit about how we got here.
Yeah. It feels good. Let's do that.
Good context.
All right, I'm putting my glasses on. We've reached that part of the show.
Part of the show.
Now, we're in beta. I like this one a lot. I like this first question a lot that's asked here, but I'm going to not ask it. I'm going to let another AI ask this to you. And it's not going to be as impressive as, it's not going to be impressive here. We're going to, 11 Labs. We're going to use 11 Labs to generate this, and let's let it ask the question.
How did the duo balance their individual expertise and strengths to create a cohesive vision for Daily.co? And what skills or experiences did they leverage to build the company from the ground up?
Did we do that?
Well, startups, we're here.
That's true. You're here. Yeah.
Well, we thought that there was going to be audio and video in everything we all do online, and a lot of it would be conversational, real-time, people talking to each other. So we started Daily to build a developer tools platform that would sort of help make that future come true.
Okay.
We wanted to build incredible global infrastructure and SDKs that would let anybody embed real-time audio and video into any app or web page. We've always admired Cloudflare because we think of ourselves as an infrastructure company. We focus on different things than Cloudflare does, but Cloudflare's network is incredible, and we wanted to build something similarly incredible. And then as we grew and evolved, the generative AI moment happened some years later. So we were already pretty mature and built out in terms of our developer tools, and all of a sudden talking to humans was not the only thing we could do.
Yeah, we started by building this real-time infrastructure for human-to-human calling.
Right.
We all saw and experienced it when ChatGPT came out. I'm sure all your customers and developer community were coming to you and wanting to brainstorm together. Like, What does this mean? What can we do? How can we better support our customers?
Right.
So because we were enabling voice and video integration, a lot of our customers and developers were interested in things like, real-time translation, real-time transcription,
right,
how to make those real-time experiences better. Pretty quickly, we began developing orchestration and infrastructure around voice AI agents. So extending from human-to-human calls to human-to-AI calls.
We published a very long technical deep dive 14 months ago now, which is forever in AI terms, called How to Talk to an LLM with Your Voice.
Oh, okay.
Because that was what our customers were asking us for in this new generative AI world. Like, we've got these human-to-human conversations. How can we put an LLM on one end of these conversations for things like customer support and healthcare patient intake workflows and just fun social and gaming stuff?
So that is those are customers that you had already that were using those tools. Are like, wait a second, how do I make this? Oh, that's cool. That's super cool. So they were coming to you, and you were like, yeah, of course we can do that. Is that kind of how it played out there?
Yeah, very much so. And so we built a bunch of stuff internally to support those customers, but then we got super interested in it just as technologists, as an engineering oriented company, because I have to admit, I sort of missed the GPT 3.5 moment. Because I've been doing this stuff a long time, and there have been lots of really interesting incremental improvements in AI, but they were all sort of little by little.
Yeah.
And I think, looking back on it, I think GPT 3.5 was probably like a big inflection point, but I didn't see it until GPT 4.
Right.
But then when GPT 4 came out, there was all of a sudden this piece of building block technology that could have human-like conversational dynamics.
Right.
And obviously for what we do, delivering conversational technology stack, the fact that you now had this LLM that could be a real conversational partner sort of opened up this whole new vista.
Yeah. How did you deal with that? So let's get to the heart of this question here. It is asking about co-founders. I'm going to say a little. Can I share a little secret here that I know about you both?
Yes.
You're married co-founders, which I am so inspired by that. I seriously am. I think that there's a lot of people out there that have partners who would both like to have an idea and do it, but don't, because they're like, well, you can't do that if you're married. But you're doing it, and you're married, and you're saying ChatGPT 3.5, so it's been at least 2 years. How long have you been? How long has Daily Co been around?
Let's see. You took Daily through YC Winter 16.
Winter 2016.
Okay.
So beginning of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you're already married to your co-founder. Truly. Maybe there's some co-founders nodding in your audience.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
a pretty intense relationship. We'd worked together before.
Okay.
So we'd known what it was like. I think there are a couple things that make it work for us. First, we're just excited to work on the technology together. We've done it before. And honestly, in terms of making it work day to day, we have a shared framework for values, which is really important as co-founders.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And is it the same values that you have in your house as well?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because
That's cool.
I mean, I think you often hear in startup culture that your team is the most important thing.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of the values we have in the house maybe map onto, the values we have with the team. What would you say?
We wanted to spend our time building something we thought was valuable on multiple levels, as a technology, as a product, as a company wrapped around a technology and product. And we wanted to do it with people we respected and admired and wanted to spend time with.
Super cool.
And it's hard, it's hard to find the tactical expression of your values always. That's true.
Yeah.
Everything in life.
Yeah.
But it's good to kind of have a sense that that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
We're not sort of startup people for startup's sake, which there's nothing wrong with that. Like
Absolutely.
we have lots of friends who sort of, they decided they wanted to start a startup and then they ideated to find the idea that would fit for them. We're just wired that we sort of took it the other way, which is that we had this idea we were interested in and then we tried to figure out whether it was something we should or could build a startup around.
Right.
And I've founded startups before and actually took 2 years between startups to make sure I really wanted to do it again.
Okay.
And one of the things that made me want to do it again was the chance to build something from scratch with Nina, who's
that's amazing.
so good at so many things. It's like a real privilege to get to work with her.
Oh, that's so. I'm going to say sweet. That's really, really, really nice. It's awesome. How's the work-life balance with that? Does it ever stop? I mean, work is life. Life is work in this world, right?
It is. And I think one reason that's tricky for co-founders and teams in the startup space is we all are passionate about what we do. I mean, this is why we do it, right? We want to build something really compelling and really great.
Yeah.
And work with really neat people. So it's this funny dynamic where that very drive can get you in this tangle over work-life balance. So I think as with everything, I keep coming back to this idea of you have to be intentional. So we try to be intentional about work-life balance, and I just try to be aware of it.
Okay.
I mean, we do have some funny things. Like I am one of those people where, I'll have something on my brain and I'll want to say it, and feel free to laugh at me. I just realized something clicked for me. It's like, if we were co-founders who weren't married or we weren't living in the same house, I'd just slack Quinn over the weekend. So now if it's the weekend, sometimes I just say it because you got to say it. But sometimes I'll be like sitting next to him and I'll just slack him something.
Like, I don't want to interrupt this time that we're having here,
That's
but
right.
This is for you and the next time you're back at Slack.
Yes, Slack,
Okay.
enabling happy partnerships.
I love
in
it.
many ways.
I
Yes.
love it. That's a great. We should talk to them about a commercial if you're ready.
And we don't aim for work-life balance for us. I think that is the thing. You have to sort of recognize what's going to happen and what's not and not fight against it.
Yeah.
So we are lucky to get to do what we do. We like it. Everything's trade-offs in life, but we just sort of don't aim for work-life balance. On the other hand, a startup as a collection of people is a marathon.
Yeah.
And we try really hard to kind of build guardrails for our team because not everybody can, be pressured to work all the time, 24/7 for years on end.
Right.
And one of the things we say to people who ask us about this, like how do you hire people who are going to kind of meet your bar in terms of expectations, is we just look for people who are really intrinsically motivated. They really like what they would be doing it daily, and they're excited enough about it that it's going to create like lots of kind of engagement, productivity, excitement, collegiality. But we also try very hard to say, you've got flexibility. You can decide, like, if it makes sense to work this weekend, great. But then if you need to recharge after that, great. Like, we totally get it. We trust you.
Awesome. Super cool. Let's choose another one. Up here.
Should we do open source?
I'm going to give you one more. You get one more. So make this is your last. This is of this game. We've got another game coming up soon, but you get one more.
Well, you were talking about community, and I mean, defer to Nina, but I think it would be fun to talk about sort of open source and AI and how much interesting stuff is going on and like why we're doing some open source stuff and putting a ton of effort into it.
Awesome. Okay, let's do that. So this is AI speaking. I'm going to read it for it. Can you walk me through the process of creating a voice-powered solution using PipeCat? What are some of the typical use cases of applications that you've seen developers or businesses leveraging the framework for?
You want to do?
Yeah, all sorts of use cases. Maybe the simplest way to put it is, when you call your doctor's office or you call your bank or the airline and you're put on hold, you should not be put on hold.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. We see developers and customers building things like small SMB front desk, SMB telephone front desks, call center workflows, in healthcare, patient-facing workflows like patient intake, scheduling appointments. It really runs the gamut. Sales outreach, sales coaching, really anything where AI can help triage or resolve the situation to free up human teammates to focus on more important things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like the PipeCat framework has given people like, ooh, this is that thing that I wish I could go and build. And you open sourced it, Glenn.
We did. Sort of two things happened at once. One is we sort of woke up and realized for several months we'd been helping customers solve the same problem over and over,
right? Which
sometimes happens in a startup, right?
For sure.
And it was things like,
means you're doing it good.
There's something going on.
There's a product market fit.
There's a moment. Yeah. How do you know when it's the LLM's turn to talk?
Right.
How do you gracefully handle the human interrupting the LLM? Right. How do you do the context window management that's so important to guide an LLM through a conversation, and probably half a dozen other things. Yeah. And so we realized we'd built a bunch of internal tooling to help our customers that was like really broadly useful. Yeah. And then the other thing that happened is in January we did like just kind of randomly, we didn't really think much about it. We did a voice AI meetup here in SF, and we didn't promote it at all, except I probably tweeted about it. Yeah. And 40 people came. Yeah. And then in February, we were like, oh, okay, well, let's do that again. Yeah. And 80 people came. Yeah. And we're like, there's only 2 dots, but there's a trend.
Yeah. I see the graph. I can picture it.
We open sourced all the stuff we'd built, and it was really very rough GitHub repo with no docs originally, but people started using it, and people started contributing back, and people started writing docs. Yep. And then we had another meetup in March, and 120 people came. And then I think at Cloudflare, we did a hackathon in April, and like 150 people came. Yep. So there was clearly enough interest in this stuff that it felt like, oh, there's an ecosystem. And, we do this stuff because we find it really interesting and really valuable. And let's see if we can help this ecosystem form.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and to continue the trend line, so we did another hackathon a couple weekends ago, an open source real-time hackathon. We worked with great partners, Google, Oracle, Tavis, Vappy. Yeah. Cartesia, Kuruvilla. It was great. Yeah. And over 550?
564 registrations.
Did they fit in or no?
So one of the reasons it got above 500 was because somebody pinged me on Twitter and said, can you make it remote friendly? Because we just never quite had the time in the previous meetups to kind of figure out what a remote participation might look like.
Right. But ironically for your
totally. Yeah. Cobbler's children never wear shoes. But a 2-day hackathon, we were like, okay, we can make this work remotely. We can set up a bunch of video streams. We can have people join video calls ad hoc. We can do it on Discord. Yeah. So I think we had about 250 registrations from San Francisco and about 300 remote.
So rad.
And it was great. Like the remote channels in the Discord for the hackathon were so hopping. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were asking about use cases. It was so fun to see what developers were interested in exploring. So we had different categories. We had an open source category, and Maxwell built this amazing. He's built out a drone project. Okay. Over a few months, and he added sort of voice enablement.
Oh, rad!
Yeah, so it was a voice-enabled or voice-driven drone. His demo project clip was great. It was all these American themes. He launched a drone, controlled it by his voice to go to Trader Joe's.
Oh, I saw that video.
It was just an example of voice AI will be everywhere.
It went to Trader Joe's to check the parking lot to see it because he hates how busy. And same. I mean, what a problem! I never would have thought to solve it with a voice drone.
There you go. And it was so cool. His stack. the NVIDIA integration?
Yeah, so he built the drone himself.
Oh my gosh.
And the compute platform is an NVIDIA Jetson embedded platform. So he's running a bunch of computer vision models on board the drone.
He shot that in the sky?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he's running a bunch of LLM stuff in the cloud, talking to the drone.
Wow.
And then he's got the voice channel, which runs on our stuff and on
Yeah.
PipeCat. And so he can say something like, go see how busy Trader Joe's is.
Yeah.
And the drone goes,
So good.
Goes a mile from his house.
So good.
Parks over the parking lot, sees how busy the parking lot is.
It reports back. It reports back over voice, right?
Yeah.
So just, real-time voice AI in embedded systems, hardware. And then there was a ton of stuff around enabling the sort of workflows we were talking about. So there was a developer who actually owns a theater in town, which is amazing. And he mentioned he doesn't really have the resources, to answer the phone all the time. So he quickly built a phone assistant on that. Yeah.
And it's so cool, right? Like that, the fact that like you can be at a hackathon, a two-day hackathon, a concept that you have that didn't exist, y'all. Like you were doing that. You were paving that way. I hope that feels good. That's awesome. So thank you for that. We are going to move into our next game. Have you heard of the game Hot Ones?
Is this the chicken?
Yeah, you eat the hot, and it's hard to kind of answer questions. But this is very similar to that, but it's called Cold Ones. And what we're going to bring on is a little surprise. Lizzie's going to come and bring us. I don't know if it's been a while since you've had one of these. Have you had one of these recently? This is a Slurpee, or I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. This is a frozen drink.
Amazing.
Are you which one of the frozen drinks? You've got 4 colors to choose from.
Well, you should choose first.
No, please, be my guest.
I'll choose first.
Okay. What flavor are you going for?
Are we talking cherry or strawberry?
I think it's red.
It's
It's red.
It's preservative, whatever.
Red number 12.
Yes.
And then we've got a blue, a brown. I don't know, and I think this is mango. This has got a mango vibe.
I'll take the mango.
Mango?
Unless
All
you
right.
feel strongly about it.
Okay, no, that's fine. And I'm gonna go blue because I like the flavor of blue. Let's do that.
All right.
The goal of this, we are going to take a sip, and we are going to go back to a time, the last time you had this flavor. And you have kids, right?
We do.
So you might have had this. You have one.
We were just saying on the way down here, you love to feed our kids
Yeah, I
sugar
do.
whenever he's around
I
here.
do.
So it's a terrible thing.
Your kid who comes to hackathons, by the way, incredible.
Yeah.
Cloud-
He loves hackathons.
Yeah, Cloudflare truly supports the developer community, or the next generation developer community. Our child is now like, I want to be a developer. I want to go to the Cloudflare kitchen.
Because of the snacks.
We
Because
did
of
it.
the
Let's do it.
snacks.
Okay, let's do it.
Cheers.
Cheers to the Slurpee. Let's take a deep sip and feel it. Feel that nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
That blue is so blue. I can see it in my brain. Went blue there for a second. I want to go back. I want to go back to a time when you were a kid, maybe even when you first started thinking about maybe the possibility of coding, of getting into code or building. Can we go to that? What was the first thing? Let's just say build. Let's not even say code. What was the first thing you thought about building?
I'll let you go first.
I mean, Legos are pretty formative for a lot of us who decided we wanted to build stuff for a living.
Right.
Yeah.
So I read all the time.
Okay. Build your knowledge.
That and kind of the structure of narrative.
Oh, cool. Nice.
It was a different kind of building, but
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If you can't tell a story, you can't really explain to people why the value of what you're doing is there.
Absolutely. What was the first tech that you got into when you're like, I want to do this for life?
I do think giving kids access to programming tools can be really, really powerful. And sometimes maybe people have different ways into it. Lots of people we know who are engineers started with video games. Yeah. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
But whatever a kid is interested in, computers are so flexible now, you can find some computational enhancement of that. And that's even more true in the age of AI, right? Like you can build stuff with an LLM's help in ways that weren't possible even a year ago, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll give, maybe I can cheat and mention 2 things.
Okay.
Because the first, really maybe personal to my own worldview, but I mean, it relates to reading and narrative structure and almost prompt engineering. Do you remember the Pick Your Own Adventure?
Oh, yeah.
Like that sort of like, those trees were really interesting to me. That is,
Now you really do build those for a living for our customers
Yes.
who have to ask an LLM to get 5 or 6 things done on a voice call.
That's interesting.
Engaged with a customer.
Yeah.
And that's why I mentioned reading before. There's just something about organizing concepts, right? How you kind of tease out knowledge and language. But then, of course, like a lot of people too, that first time you're in front of a Mac as a kid, right? And using their publishing software.
Right.
Yeah, that was...
You're like,
a
wow.
few things clicked.
A little older than being a kid, but I was super lucky to sort of wash up at the MIT Media Lab as a grad student.
Oh, wow.
In a moment when the MIT Media Lab was all about like this crossover of the internet and hardware, like embedded hardware and virtual characters. Like there was a virtual dog that we were showing, not me, but like people at the Media Lab were sort of showing off in like 1998, 1999.
Like
really,
Clippy, like pre-Clippy, that little dog that would bring I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this is like there was a big wall-sized projector and the dog lived on that wall.
Oh, okay.
And you could walk up to the dog, you can interact with the dog.
Wow.
And it was
what tech was that?
Much more. It was a bunch of the precursors to neural networks.
Okay.
I mean, the neural networks, the precursors to today's neural
Sure.
networks. They were running on massively less powerful hardware.
Right.
With less powerful architectural techniques, but you could go talk to the dog and interact with it physically.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to be at the Media Lab in like the very late 1990s and feel like you're sort of seeing the future.
Yeah, that's cool. That's super cool. And I do feel like where we're at right now, like especially I think that the code space that you're in right now is so much the future of where we're headed. Like a robot's no good if it can't talk to you. Right. And if it can't understand what you're doing. And, I think that like, I love the problems that you're tackling with like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think one of the biggest ones that I think that you solve is latency, right? Like that, because you don't even think about that, right?
That's our goal in life, is to drive latency down. It's what we do all the time. And I think you're right. But for me, there's sort of a 2-layer stack. One is just AI in general, truly changing everything, but we're at the very, very early days of that. And then layering on voice and conversational dynamics that, meet the human where the human is in terms of how we like to talk, and how we like to listen, how we like to interact. We're even more at the beginning of that. I went to a family reunion this past weekend and people are like, oh, this AI stuff, is it mostly hype? And I'm like, no, it's not mostly hype. Right. But as soon as you get outside this little world we live in,
exactly,
it hasn't gotten sort of evenly distributed at all yet.
Yeah. I was at a party and they said, so what are you working on? I said, AI. And they said, ew. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. What do you mean, ew? Like, so the bubble is real here. 500 people coming to a meetup is real. There's a hackathon and people were locked out because at GitHub, you could only have so many people at GitHub, and they stopped the doors and people were out in the streets, literal streets, doing demos, holding their laptops up and doing demos. Cause like, this is awesome, fun stuff. And like, I love that you all are pushing that forward. So like, again,
if you've been doing this since the early days of the internet, it really does feel like that moment again. Yeah. It feels like the Netscape, dial-up modem moment is what we're trying to figure out how to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
It is. And as that revolution, the modem dial-up, I'm sure we all remember, when our families or ourselves got that modem dial-up and that sound, waiting for and how amazing that was, like how it gave our families access to things.
Yeah.
I think you guys put your finger on it. I'm so excited by how voice experiences can unlock AI insights for, senior citizens.
Yes.
For kids.
Yeah.
For like all sorts of things.
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Getting beyond SF, getting beyond a certain demographic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just walked into our third game. Producer Peter does internet sleuthing. Mm-hmm. And this might be a little awkward for both of you, but we're going to talk about your ex, your Twitter. your ex? That's the gotcha.
I laugh.
All right. So Peter did a little digging. Some of this is old. Some of this is not as old. But this is from a recent hackathon. Can you explain what's happening in this picture here?
This is one of the submissions for the hackathon remote prize track.
Okay.
These are folks, I think they were in Toronto. 3 people got together and built a robot.
Okay.
That, as you can probably tell from the image, was incredibly foul-mouthed. Which,
and it looks like it's a chicken.
Yeah.
Is it? It's like
It's a chef.
It's a chef.
It's a chef.
Okay.
So it's a chef that
Chef.
has it's running on Google Gemini LLM.
Okay.
And it has vision input.
Okay.
And voice input and output.
Okay.
And it will critique your cooking skills
Yeah, in a foul way.
in a
Very foul.
blunt.
Were you glad that was your child there at that hackathon?
I don't think he's seen that video.
Okay.
It's the remote track.
We're not going to play that one.
Awesome. But here's who did win, right? So who did win the track? I believe first place. Yeah.
For first place remote.
First place remote. What was this? This seems cool.
This was the personalized shopper and stylist, and again, multimodal.
Yeah.
So you see the developer there, and what he showed is like he just gets on. I guess this is the part where actually he's asking the assistant to help curate his shopping choices.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then at some point he actually switches to, I've put something on, and like, what's your feedback?
Nice.
Or what color should I get this in?
Yeah. Awesome. Totally cool. Like, that is so wild. So let's go to the next one. I love this tweet. This is from a while back. I don't know if these people are still in good standings with you or not, but so the tweet is that they were asking for female-founded CEO-led portfolio companies, and you tweeted that women outnumbered in the latest board. Which, congratulations, thank you. That's awesome. That is so cool. We need more of that, especially in this AI space. We are in the middle of this bubble. And there are 50% women in this world, and there is 0.2% women at these meetups sometimes. And I want to change that. And I love that we need to figure out how to change that. Do you have something that you think that we could do to make this feeling that happened afterwards? Make it go boom, there's a bunch of women here. Can we do that? What can we do?
Well, we love your team at Cloudflare. I mean, I know you guys have such Lizzie and others. I think we always, again, try to be intentional and always try to make sure we aren't passive about being aware of who's around and realizing that actually a lot of us are committed to excellence and want to build great things. That's what drives me crazy the most. The idea that we have to do that it's sort of out of bounds for people from underrepresented communities, women and otherwise, to be present. My friends growing up, your friends growing up, some of the most passionate nerds. Women in fantasy, Black women, Black men, sci-fi nerds. They've envisioned the future too. So
for sure.
We I think, have to allow. Just be aware of who we bring into spaces. Right. And just recognize excellence anywhere. That wasn't much of an answer.
No.
It's just, they're there. Can you just open your eyes?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about there are more, and the number of women at our board meetings has increased since I last tweeted.
Awesome. Congrats. That's
so
great.
Our Series B was led by the wonderful Roseanne Winchek at Renegade. Series A, we were lucky to partner with Lucky Groom, who's wonderful. Jenny Leftcourt led our seed back in 2019, our seed for the API, and that Jenny was joined by like Katie Stanton at Moxie. So
And April Underwood.
So many.
Awesome.
Because you've been in the space a long time, and so you've seen things change.
I think networks matter.
Yeah.
And so I'd say 2 things about that. One is if you make an effort to expand your network, as Nina was saying, people are around, like go meet them. That's often really helpful to you personally, just broadening out your network, and then inviting people into your network as well, so that there's that cross-pollination. I mean, I think Jenny introduced it to Katie, introduced it to April, so we got this really great additional firepower on our cap table because there's a network effect there.
That's awesome. I think calling it out, I feel like when there's a mantle. It's all men, right? There's no need for that. We need to call that out, I think, when we see that there's people, there's voices that are super important here that are not being heard. And because they don't feel invited. I feel like it's more inviting, I think is what
That's a really good example. And I think it ties into what you were saying about the network effect. Because as soon as we realize that dynamic, if we have a situation where there's a mantle, and we figure out maybe there's one person we can reach out to, they may know someone else. Yeah. Right. And that'll trickle down to the next panel.
Yeah. And say, this is an inviting space. Cause like, I hope that, you'll throw inviting spaces. We try our best to throw inviting spaces, but I don't know if we're doing it. I feel like we're not doing it. And like, I'm going to call ourselves out on it. I think we need to get better at this. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more boom, more of that boom. All right. This is a very recent tweet that Peter pulled up today where we're talking about how there's a big price drop on some of this real-time clients, but then Quinn came back and said, actually, it is very expensive. And we talked about some dots earlier. And if I look at this graph here, you're talking about a 1-minute conversation on the real-time API that's out because it starts all the conversation. It gets progressively more expensive. You could talk about a 10-minute conversation that's $6, and that's expensive.
It looks like OpenAI fixed that today with automatic caching, though.
Oh, really?
Which has an 80% lower cost. The cache tokens have an 80% lower cost. So we need to redo that math. That's a middle of a thread in which we were trying to make sure everybody in the thread understood the math, because if you understand the math as a starting point, then you can figure out like how much it's going to cost for your application.
Because that's hard, right? That's really hard. Challenging. Yeah.
It's really hard. And LLMs being priced per token in general it's a complicated thing to wrap your head around. And then in a use case like a multi-turn conversation, it's even more complicated. Right. So we have, spreadsheets we share with people that are like pricing calculators. They have assumptions embedded in them, right? So the assumptions might not be exactly right for your use case. So you have to learn how to do those evaluations and monitoring so you know how much you're going to be spending. But the first release of the OpenAI real-time API was very, very expensive. But I think they just fixed that today, which is one of the things that you probably need to bet on in generative AI is that stuff is getting cheaper every release.
It's going to get better. Like just kind of lean into it. That's great advice. I think that like build your prototype, make it work. Yeah.
Well, you have a bunch of stuff that you offer totally for free, which is also mind blowing.
Yeah. Because we want people to be able to do that. Yeah. We don't want people to be shy away from that. So that's where we head. Yeah. Awesome. This one, I love this one. I got to come see you at this place called Solaris. Can you explain a little bit about what's going on over there at Solaris?
Yeah, it's amazing what Thomas and his co-founder Jacob have built. It's an example of what's so great in San Francisco right now. So Solaris is a community and co-working space in the Mission, and it's full of AI developers and AI teams. I mentioned earlier, I think we talked about our team being remote. So it's fantastic to be able to come to this place and be around this energy and meet other developers who are super excited about everything that's happening in AI.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also mostly pretty young companies, which is a fun, very fun to be around companies that are just trying to figure it out at the very earliest stages. And I think back to the gender balance thing you were talking about. I don't actually know the numbers, but Solaris seems like a relatively gender balanced space in terms of the kind of ecosystem. Yeah,
it's interesting how things are changing, and I think Solaris does a great job of being a welcoming space. I really enjoy how early stage everyone is there, because I think that's one of the things Thomas and Jacob have really invested in is helping developers come together to sort of figure out your ideas and what you want to do.
How many companies are in there now? So what was the building? Do you remember?
It was a city Department of Public Works building. If you had to get a building permit 5 years ago in San Francisco, you probably went and stood at a window in that building.
It's got a little bit of that vibe, but then we're going to upcycle this thing, you know, and the vibe is great there. Like it's really, really cool. You can feel the creativity. I don't know if it's the overhead lights buzzing or it's the creativity, but how many companies?
I think there must be 40 or 50 because they have both some, small private offices, but they also have a bunch of hot desks.
Yeah.
It's sort of WeWork model,
Yeah.
but very much a community-oriented sort of take on it.
Yep. I saw people from different companies just hanging out on the couch talking about what their day was like and just what that does, sharing that knowledge, and everybody being AI companies is so cool. Such a cool place. So if you get a chance to ever go to a meetup there at the Solaris building, go just go check that out. You might have to take your shoes off. That's kind of a thing sometimes.
I think they changed that.
They changed the rules?
When we moved into the new, bigger Solaris building, they were like, this is going to be a shoes-off space, but I don't think that lasted.
It didn't last.
It's hard. It's hard in an office.
Awesome. All right, it is time for our next game, which involves a camera. This game is called Coming Soon. We're going to make a movie. So we're talking about the future a lot, and I believe a lot of the inspiration for movies comes from the past of these movies that we grew up as. In 20 years, it's going to be 2044, which sounds super cool. But also, what does it look like in 2044 with the work that you're doing? Because you're building that future. I have said that like 3 or 4 times, and I mean that. You are building that future. What does voice interaction look like in 20 years?
I mean, I think we're just going to be talking to AIs all the time.
Okay.
And we're just going to take for granted that we've got these AIs sort of in every online space that we're part of, and that they talk back to us, and that they listen, and that they're both conversational and kind of just passive co-pilots that are along for the ride and helping us in all sorts of ways.
Nice.
I was say, so tactically, the ways we interact with information just should be much more seamless. Kind of getting into the details. Like, you don't have to open your fridge to know what's in there. Right.
Yeah.
So we did an internal hackathon. I said, could someone please build the interactive shopping list where I can just say,
give me what's missing.
Hey, add this. Right. Like, you can keep track of when I put the pasta in the fridge, I can say, okay, I put anchovy pasta in the fridge. And then when we finish it, I'm like, oh, the anchovy pasta is done.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I got to cook that again. Please put that on my shopping list.
Yep.
So I spoke seamlessly with Realtime, voice AI, it's logging it. Right. And then when I get in my car, I say to the app, which is also on my phone, like maybe it's through a speaker in the kitchen, maybe it's on the fridge.
2044, go nuts. Where is it?
I'm like, I walk out the door, I'm like, what am I getting again?
Yeah.
And it says to me, you ran out of anchovy pasta. You want to make a fresh batch. Yeah. So all that stuff just seamless.
Yeah, seamless.
But that's like 5 years away.
That's true.
Or 2 years away.
True.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. So that's tactically.
Right.
Do you think like conceptually how we conceive of ourselves will be different because of these co-pilots?
Well, I think part of the thought experiment is, if you rewound 15 years, what would it take for you to imagine TikTok?
That's a good way to do it.
When we pitched Daily to seed investors in 2016, almost all people we already knew, because we'd been around and we were lucky to have this sort of network that included a lot of professional investors. Even so, we were like, conversational, voice, video calls, you're just going to do lots of that stuff every day. And probably 10 out of 12 of the investors we pitched said, I'm not going to do video calls. Like, I prefer the phone.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, wait, what do you do for a living again?
Yeah.
Are you a professional technology investor?
Right.
It did take 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, a little pandemic kick.
To shift.
Pandemic kick.
The pandemic definitely sort of shifted that balance faster than it
moved
might have
everything
otherwise.
faster.
It feels to us sometimes when we talk about talking to LLMs, the same dynamic. Like, I don't really need to talk to an LLM.
Right.
Yeah, but you're going to.
You're going to, yeah.
I mean, another thing we heard was, Zoom has figured it out.
Yeah.
When we were raising like many years ago.
Sure.
Which in one way, like, is a testament to Zoom being so great, like a fantastic technology, fantastic company. But the idea that, the evolution of video technology just stops right there. So, I mean, I know this is a cop-out, but I almost can't, what will it be in 2044? And I totally agree. The stuff I was talking about was like 5 years.
It's almost here now.
But it's going to be I
mean, if we really look out in the future, I just think we've got these LLMs as interaction partners in ways that just feel very human. Yeah. Like, they're not tools. They are part of our social fabric. You're going to have LLMs in your group chat. You're going to have LLMs in all your social spaces. And it's hard for us to sort of turn the corner mentally and like wrap our heads around that. Like, it would have been hard to imagine TikTok. Like, the first time you saw a TiVo, could you trace that through and imagine TikTok? Probably not
Right.
going forward,
So, like,
but
what's
going
gonna
back,
happen?
you
could see how
figure
it
out.
happened. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So for this, we're making this movie. There's some plot points. So we're gonna make a movie. This is using the multimodal playground. A lot of inputs and outputs from Cloudflare.
That's
so
awesome.
Very cool.
So we have your picture here. We have the people are named Quinn and Nina, and we're going to run this. We're going to say describe the people. We're going to find actors that will play you in this movie, and then all good plots have a problem, right? What happens what could stop that future? What would stop that future from happening, where everybody's talking to everything?
Not enough GPUs.
Not enough GPUs, but they almost give up due to not enough GPUs. I love it.
What was the great file swag? GPU.
GPU poor. Yeah, our friends at Fal had the hats. It's a GPU poor.
And then finally, everyone. What's the finale of this? They just talk. Everyone talks to everything. I feel like that's it, right? We're just talking.
I mean,
to
if you're going
everything.
to be sort of geeky about it, it's that talking to other people has a bandwidth constraint that there has to be another person who's there to listen.
Wow.
No more bandwidth constraints on conversation.
And
conversation too cheap to meter.
Conversation bandwidth problems. All right, so
you don't have to listen to me anymore,
That's
Craig, because
right.
I'll have LLMs to listen to me.
All right. That's gonna solve some problems.
Forget
So we're gonna-
being
solves a big problem.
Right, forget married co-founders.
All right,
It's all
so
about
look-
your AI co-founder.
So the camera. Oh, your Slurpees are in the shot. That's a beautiful shot. It's going to talk about them. All right, so it's going to run. It's going to push this through. We're going in here, and it described
cool.
you here. Yep. So we got good, dark brown hair, dark sunglasses.
Future X-Men.
The name of the movie is 2044: The Future of Speech. That's pretty good.
all
That's
right.
pretty catchy. And in
We
fact,
can workshop it.
In fact, I went and had it generate a little slogan, movie tagline, if you will, and I cloned my voice doing the movie
In a
guy.
world.
In a world,
In a
exactly. And it's
world.
called In a World.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
So, Benedict Cumberbatch. That's a pretty good one.
2044, The Future of Speech, starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Quinn. The boundaries between human
Don't
and
have a
machine begin
PhD.
to blur. In this groundbreaking tech thriller, Cumberbatch and Gal Gadot shine as unlikely allies navigating the cutting edge of innovation.
Yes.
As old conversations fade to silence, the world is left to ponder. What exactly does it mean to connect with the people around us when the voice of the future is all that's left?
Whoa.
That's
We went a
pretty
little
good.
dark at the
I
end
know.
there.
Craig, you know that Steven Spielberg made the demo reel for my previous startup. Right?
I do, yeah.
Story
Yeah, it was-
for the
This is
next
the next one.
the next appearance.
There's your movie poster that we generated, which is just crazy that we can make a movie poster out of nothing, and it's that's happening. It's pretty good. I also had to generate a review, a fake review based on the movie poster, because I think that's what happens. I think what happens is that people say, "Oh, voice AI, I don't like that." You've never played with it. I've never actually seen the movie, so this says, I'd say 3 out of 5 stars. It's more than the same that I expected about a futuristic setting, which probably based on that cover, I think that's probably what's happening.
Yeah, we'd workshop the cover. So it's like all our team and Dr. Quinn and Dr. Nina Central.
Yeah.
You don't have a PhD either.
I know neither of us have a PhD. That's
But this is a movie that I'm ready for. I think that we're building the future there. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I would love to see this. I give the review of 2044 that you're bringing us 5 out of 5 stars. So thank you, and thank you for being here. Cheers.
thank you. Cheers.